Call us now on IPL on 0413 636 024. Get in your song requests. Can request to be on the show. Enjoy. That is 0413 636 024. IPL Radio. Only the best. IPL Radio, inspiring passionate lives for the community.
Hey, welcome back everybody, and now I actually am joined with my co-host as well, Karen. Hi Karen.
Hello Decka, hello everyone.
And we have our special guest, the Mayor of Kwinana, Miss Carol Adams.
Hello everybody. Nice to be here on rather a wintry Friday afternoon, but it's nice and warm in here, and a nice warm welcome from Inspire.
Yeah. How do you find that weather though? Oh, can somebody turn it off?
You ready? You were talking about golden rays of raindrops last week.
Liquid sunshine, that's what we call it. Yes.
I love winter.
Everything's positive.
Yeah, no, it's great.
So how's it going then, Carol? Everything good?
Yeah, we're going really well. We're still, I think the lockdown that we had whilst it was back in April, it still takes a while to pick up again. I mean, I look at my diary and everything was back to back, and then everything just gets cleared out of the diary, and then people seem to take a while to come back and re-engaged. But you do a lot of work, during COVID, post-COVID now, the way we do a lot of things at council has changed. We do a lot more Teams meetings. And whilst it seems a bit of a novelty, you do miss that face-to-face contact sometimes.
Right, yeah. It's always good to have that personal contact with people, like not like personal, just like close, to see them instead of over the telephone or, video screen.
Because it was quite interesting. We are a large migrant resettlement area. People don't realise that. And we usually do one citizenship a month, same to City of Rockingham, and we have about, up to 80 people. When COVID struck last year, we had such a backlog. We had about 500 people wanting their residency.
One of them was me.
One of you, wasn't it?
I was there a little while ago, just like last month or something. Like you say, it was a massive queue for it.
It was,
and it was full.
And we were one of the very few councils that agreed or were permitted, I don't know whether we're permitted or we agreed, we was happy to put my hand up for it, to do online citizenships. Yeah. And you'd think, goodness, how impersonal. That was my first response. But it was actually really good. And when I think of, because our time slotted every half hour, and we did it over a series of a week or more. And, I perform citizenship ceremonies for people who are on their cabs, a FIFO worker. Someone was in a tractor, in sheds somewhere. We didn't care. They didn't care, as long as they became an Australian citizen and you took their pledge of commitment. And it was actually a great opportunity to talk to people afterwards. With citizenship ceremonies, you do the pledge, provide their cards and everything, and that's not really as personal as what the online ones were. So there you go. That's just
even the opportunity to celebrate and have that memory of the day where you come together. But the thing, did you? Obviously, with the Zoom calls and things like that, there's a bonus to it, and obviously the in-person meeting, connecting with people. But even in the publishing industry that I work in, it's created so much opportunity and given us back some time. Do you find that the travelling here and there and having to be everywhere, so you're actually getting to be more productive and do more things? Do you feel that?
I do, and it's funny. It's a funny role being the mayor. Yes. People say, well, what do you do? What is your day like? And I'll say, well, look, I might travel backwards and forwards. I'm very lucky. I live very close to the City of Kwinana admin offices. So sometimes I could travel back and forwards 3 times a day. But my day starts when I wake up and I turn on my iPad and I log into the City of Kwinana emails. And I usually clear them very quickly, or it depends on how many and what actions need to be done. And then, of course, social media is such a large part of your role now, and it's a thermometer to me. I'll go through these various chat pages that I'm on and what are the issues people are concerned about, and I'll often screenshot, send things off to council if there's anything that is bubbling away, and is there some way that we can intervene or help people. Unfortunately, what people do, they'll see something that's happening and they'll go straight to social media instead of reporting it to council, or not reporting it to police. That's another thing. That's a big thing. And so we're trying to educate people to hang on before you actually go on and have a rant. We might be able to help you. Because what happens is there becomes a feeding frenzy, a tsunami of people just with really negative comments, and negativity feeds off negativity. And sometimes I'll interject and put a few comments up, and it just seems to break it up a bit.
Diversion, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is the key whenever you divert the thinking, and that is the thing, just to change the whole culture around just going straight to social media. Because when you do, even if that's an impulsive kind of thing that maybe you put out there, and if it's negative, you can't detract that, because unless you do a statement afterwards, because it's out there and it's circulating, it's building momentum, and these things
there's
a runaway train.
There's always somebody who takes it the wrong way as well. There's always one out of the crowd that goes, "Oh, why are you doing that?"
And before you came in, we were talking about the local government elections are coming up on the 19th of October, and there's been new rules put in place to try and monitor and try and educate candidates that you can't say things about people who are other candidates, because if you get elected, you all have to play nicely in the sandpit. And sometimes you take 12 months just to kind of rebuild relationships, and people forget about that. Throwing a few hand grenades to people, and then they get on council, and you have to really try and work together as a cohesive team. That's why you do team building quite often after a local government election.
Isn't it? I wouldn't be good at that, because I'm just a big love fest for everybody. I have to admit, Carol, I was Googling you. Of course, I know and have heard of you. Of course, I live in Waikiki. But I was Googling you, and you are on Wikipedia. I was so impressed. You have a profile on Wikipedia, but you have been a deputy mayor and a mayor for a long time. Is it like 24 years? Am I right?
Yeah, I was first elected to council in May 1997, and then deputy mayor in 2005. And then I was very fortunate to be elected as the then town and now the city's first female mayor. So I've been able to be re-elected and hold that leadership position until October, and fingers crossed I'll run again, but it'll be my last my last term. I think it's time to really start looking at succession planning and trying to entice a more diverse range of people to come into, or even just to consider local government.
You must have seen some good changes since you started, because in the last 20 years, you literally must have seen some really good changes.
Look, if I go back to what Kwinana was like 24 years ago to what it is now, it's almost unrecognisable when you look at the infrastructure that we've actually been able to, with obviously grants and state and federal assistance and ratepayers. We've got some great facilities now. Kwinana's always been very isolated. You go around it. Unless, the road network goes around it, unless you've got business in Kwinana, that's when you go into it. So as a result, it's quite a checkered history, and it's taking a lot of time, effort and really leadership from not just myself, but all the elected members and the staff to try and really put us out there to try and get the services and infrastructure, community and business infrastructure as well, that has, made Kwinana, I believe, a really great place to live.
It is a really... Can I share a story with you? Whenever I moved to here in 2008, we were going to go and live in Kwinana. We loved the name of it. We went out, and I remember it was so different in 2008 than what it is now, but that didn't deter us. But we went around to look at some properties and things like that. We were newbies here, so we were finding our feet. And I remember going into a service station, and the lady asked a question, and I said, we're looking at... Don't move here. She was But now my kids look to go to Kwinana because of the park, because of the shopping centre. You have everything there, even skating and everything. My kids now look to go there. It's amazing change.
That water park is brilliant. So
Adventure Park.
Yeah,
it actually won a national award for a medium-sized park.
Yeah.
And that came from an idea from Kwinana Rotary, working with council and getting behind it and federal funding, and it's just been such a beautiful park, and it's become an attractor for us as tourism, because people from outside Kwinana come in, and it's about breaking the stereotypical vision that you say Kwinana, people say industry.
Yes.
But industry is only just a very small part of it. We're 118 square kilometres. We are the city of trees. We've got we've got a larger A-class reserve than Kings Park, the Leader Reserve. And people really value the environment that they live in. And the irony of it is that in the past, any of the I suppose the pollution at the time from the industry actually was. The city was designed by Margaret Fielman, a city planner, or town planner, way back in the 1950s. And her task was to site a city one day that will house those people who will be working in what was now the new industrial area. And it was with BP, which was then the Anglo-Iranian oil company. This is how long ago it was.
It's amazing, isn't it? I love this.
Yeah.
And what she did was, but she was so clever, because she knew that there was going to be a large industrial area one day, and she didn't want any of the prevailing winds to go over the city with any of the fumes, back in the 50s, 50s, 60s, 70s, environmentally, there was obviously, because of the laws and everything, everyone's cleaned up their act a lot now.
Yes.
And she lit tyres at different areas, and she saw which way the winds blow. And so the whole irony of Kwinana, when people say, oh, it's full of pollution, is that no, it's not. And that's because of the planning of Margaret Fielman.
Yeah, I have to highlight here. Look at these amazing women making this happen for this area, right back to, and that probably may have been
she was
at the time. She was like,
before her time.
Yeah, amazing. And to have that insight. And now you've carried the torch for so long, being in the Mirror role from 2006, and you are so passionate about it. You wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is to serve. It's that kind of mentality. It's beautiful.
I think it's a privilege, and you can throw that term out a lot, but when you think about it, there's only 139 councils in Western Australia. Yep. So there's 139 shire presidents or mayors. So you're in a very unique position, and you are in a leadership position, and you take that very seriously, because you have to bring together a team, and you look at the strategic vision of your council. And I was talking earlier about our strategic planning that we've just done recently, and listening to the community and what they want to see for the city going forward in the next 10 years. The Local Government Act says you need to have a strategic community plan, you have to have a corporate business plan, and we've been doing a lot of community consultation, and the councils themselves have done workshops, and we came out with 3 projects that we went to the community with and asked, look, this is how much they're going to cost. This is how much it's going to cost you individually per week. We'll say yes or no, do you want these projects? And we've come up with 3 great priority projects, which will now be in our budget, and we're going to go ahead and have them over the next couple of years, and I'm happy to talk to them, but I think you're looking like you're wanting to ask me something. Otherwise I will rabbit away.
No, I'm just thinking of quite a few different things. Just because you've been at it over 20 years, what's the biggest obstacle you've ever had?
I think prejudice against Kwinana was you always feel like you have to defend yourself and defend why you live in Kwinana. And I'll tell you a story, but I won't tell you the name of the politician at the time. My background is that I was a lawyer, and I worked for probably 11 years with the WA Police Union, and I came onto council I was working with the police union in 2009, so I've 1999 it was, going back.
Wow,
over
goodness,
the
that's
years,
22
yeah.
years.
Yeah, and I remember when I was deputy mayor to this lovely man called Ken Jackman, and who we now have the Ken Jackman Hall in our Darius Wells Library and Resource Centre named after him. And Ken was such a passionate advocate for getting funding for everything that we needed. I remember going cap in hand to the then Treasurer of Western Australia, as you do. And as I was walking out the room, the Treasurer said to me, and where do you live? And I said, well, I live in Kwinana. He went, well, it was almost like, why would you be living in Kwinana? You know, you're a lawyer, you're this, you're that. And I said, well, it's just so stereotypical. Our demographics have changed so much. We have people from all walks of life, and they really contribute to making our community a great place. But I think going back to your question, the barrier is the prejudice that people say. You see the blinkers come up, almost like you're discriminated against because of your postcode.
Yeah,
And we've put a lot of...
Isn't it interesting?
And I mean, Rockingham's had a bad rap as well. And you look at Rockingham, and I've had this discussion with their great mayor, Barry Samuel, about, the bogans.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a terrible rap. And you have got Rockingham here as the best coastline in Australia. And yet you're still trying forever to defend your community. And I think that's been the biggest barrier. We've come a long way in 20 years, but I still think probably in another, 10 years, you're still having to change the ship. And there's a lot of things happening.
Generational thing, though. It'll take a few generations
absolutely.
for the locals to. But as someone who emigrated here, I think the Kwinana is just really up there. Like, you can just see the changes that's happened, and everyone should be proud to live there now because everyone's been part of it, haven't they? Everybody's had to chip in.
They have it. And look, without a doubt, we have our challenges, and I remember a time, 20 years ago, you would open the front page of the West Australian and it would say, the crime hotspots. And you would hope to goodness that your town was not mentioned. Yeah. And it usually was. Now we're not, and I think that there's always petty crime around in any suburb, and we work very well with the police in certain hotspot areas. But to me, that's an achievement in itself to think that, we're not one of the crime hotspots.
It increases the values of homes as well, so it's in the interest
does.
of everyone to...
And we've got multi-million-dollar homes in Kwinana. People don't realise that because of our beautiful rural areas. I just say to people, take the time, come down, have a drive around, research, go onto our website and just see, what we have to offer. If you're looking to relocate to an area, we've got fantastic facilities. Our great aquatic centre, adventure parks, we've got public-private schools, 2 train lines. We're 28 minutes from Perth on one line, and we're 10 minutes to the beautiful coastline. So
the shopping centre's grown heaps since I was first here 20 years ago as well.
It's a great one, isn't it?
It has,
it is a good one, yeah.
But we'd certainly like some more probably commercial investment in the shopping centre. But we've got Costco coming along, and that's huge.
That is so good.
It is,
wow.
yes, that
Just
is a
out
big
the
one.
road, hey.
And we've got a new port, Westport, which is the name of the flag. It's not the actual name of the port, but that's the organisation. So we've been working non-stop since 2015 trying to get a new port to come to Kwinana, and that's well underway now with the planning for it. It'll just be a matter of, it's coming, it's just a matter of when as far as the timing goes, but that's been a huge project in itself, and that's been a once in a lifetime opportunity to be involved in, I would say, eventually the state's biggest infrastructure project. People just don't realise how big this will be, and then we have these fantastic councils on either side with Kwinana, with Rockingham to our south, Coburn to our north. We're I call us the bookend councils, and we work together for economic development opportunities. And you look at, the naval opportunity for the shipbuilding in Coburn, and then you look at what's happening in the industrial area now with lithium and batteries and hydrogen opportunities, and then you've got everything that's coming great to Rockingham. So it's a great place to be.
Absolutely. I'm even thinking about history books. In 100 years' time, when people are researching the pandemic, what were you guys doing? Building ports and making, progress.
Oh, that's it,
And
all with a mask on.
Amazing. Yes, absolutely. But, there's no pulling it back, just keeping it moving forward.
So you see the progress of the recycling plant as well. I usually quite love going there just to buy the second-hand good stuff. But the actual education from the recycling plant is great. They have classrooms there. They teach the kids how it works, why it works. And now they've got the scheme where you get 10 cents back on your containers.
Oh, the container deposit scheme.
Yeah,
that's
great.
Brilliant. Still can't get my grandson interested in it. I take it along, but I'm collecting it all. But that you look at the rationale or the psychology behind that. It was about certain waste bottles that are thrown out.
Yeah.
You'll note there's no wine bottles. You don't get anything back on there. And you don't get anything back on milk bottles, but you'll get something back on flavoured milk bottles and small beer bottles and cans. So that's the target. And you see people walking around picking them up because they know that there's money in it now. And the streets are actually getting a lot tidier.
Yeah.
But talking about recycling, Kwinana is the host to Australia's first waste to energy facility.
Yep.
And that in itself is quite an amazing journey. Back in 2010, I went on a delegation to Japan to look at 3 different facilities in Japan. And as a result of that, we came back and we said, yes, this is something looking ahead. We don't have a tip. You're getting ratepayers get charged a lot of money to put your rubbish into landfill, whereas this is the way to go. And now we're host now to Australia's first waste to energy facility, and there's a second one now being built in Rockingham industrial area, and that's what one of the biggest problems councils face is what to do with your municipal waste. And you are getting increasing charges for putting rubbish into landfill, so you have to look at alternatives.
And it's probably good for our atmosphere, the earth, the whole thing around that. Like, we're doing our bit, hey?
Oh,
I didn't even know it.
it.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate 2 years ago now, because there was the waste to energy facility being built in Kwinana. I don't know how it happened, but I ended up being invited by the Spanish government with 5 other people to go over to Madrid and look at all the way they were doing waste and their packaging and marine waste. It is such an eye-opener what's going on and how they're able to try and attack it at the source. I know we're probably getting off track, but what I found was quite interesting is you'll pick up a container and it'll tell you by the colour what bin it goes into.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's right.
So,
Yeah.
it's amazing. Yeah.
Makes it easy, doesn't it?
Oh,
And every home has those bins inside and outside.
Yeah.
It is.
It's
We're still grappling with the education of what bin it goes in, whether they're that far ahead. They've passed that now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably a generational thing now as well. What does a typical day look like for you now?
Today was a typical day. I woke up, checked all my emails, took the dog for a walk early, came back, made a few phone calls, turned on the computer. I think post-COVID, what I have found is I do more and more work from my home office. Mm-hmm. You don't actually have to be in the office. I'm contactable. We've got a new CEO that came on board over 12 months ago now, and we would talk once or twice a day. I'm accessible. My landlines goes straight back to my mobile, so 24/7 I'm accessible. Yeah. and of course this is a great opportunity to speak about all the great things happening in Kwinana. It's a strange job, but it's a really, really good job.
Really fulfilling. Whenever you're passionate about it, and you can see that you're definitely passionate about it. So what time would you go to? Do you set where you stop on the day, or do you just go with it on a given day?
Oh, if your phone's on, if your phone's on. But I mean, you get a break.
I can so relate because you know, and I'm the same. I had an office, and now I'm so much more efficient at home for some reason, and seem to be more in flow. And it's the whole psychology about having to have the office space and all of that has changed, hasn't it? Since it's more accessible to work from home.
But I was very fortunate because in 2011 I was running 2 jobs. I was mayor, and then I was a full-time solicitor. And I remember one day, it just became, I'd been doing that for 6 years.
Wow.
And one day I ran backwards and forwards to West Perth, I think, and to the council 3 times during the day.
Wow.
And I was also, because of the role that I did, I was on 24-hour call-outs with the union for critical incidents, usually for police officers. That was my job. And I just said, I can't do this. Something has to give, because it was just too much, and you have a family to look after.
Both are a job in itself, though, a full-time job.
Yeah, and so, we made the decision, I say we because it was a decision with my husband and I, that, you give up the job that probably paid very well, and the mayor's role is paid as well, to do something that you feel is more beneficial, for a community. And so, I think I have been very, very fortunate that I've been able to work for this long in a job that I'm passionate about. And when you look around and you see things that have happened whilst you have been in that role, and you've seen things that go from an idea, like our adventure park, someone comes to us and says, why don't we put in a regional park? And, 3 or 4 years later, you've got this fantastic award-winning park. And you think, that's what it's all about. And people say, look, you're getting long in the tooth now. How about, about time you give it up? But the problem is you start with projects, you see them, and then another project comes along and you think, I want to be part of that. I really want to be a part of it.
It takes a while too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To get it all
and the Westport project, the port, that was I called it our baby, because we started advocating in 2015 for that. And so it's kind of difficult to stand back and think, until you're sure that the first shovel's been turned in that port area.
Yeah, you're there to fight for it, give it a voice.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
As a publisher, have you ever considered writing your story?
I've been asked that before, and one of the biggest regrets I have that I never kept a diary. Yeah. Like, I know when I was a lawyer, I've got all my diaries for lots of reasons, usual legal reasons. But I wish that I had kept a diary of some of the really exciting things, and also some of the decisions we've made, and you don't always get it right. And also the great people that I have met along the way. I mean, I've been very fortunate. I've met prime ministers. I've met the Queen. And then you have met these most wonderful people in your community that do so much behind the scenes. So I think I'd like to have talked about all those great experiences and where you've been, and more importantly, what the outcomes have been for the community. As a result of something that you have done. Yeah.
And those connections are so valuable, aren't they, in intertwining everything and creating the conversation about what the change you want to make.
And people are very cynical, because I sometimes say it myself. You think, these junkets. But you're like, if I didn't go on a 3-day mini tour of Japan back in 2010, we would not have had the commitment, and having seen how waste energy works, we wouldn't have had the commitment to go ahead and sign contracts for our waste for this new facility. And that's just, there's numerous examples of that over the last 20-something years.
Yeah, it certainly helps to get out there, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you know, obviously you're well travelled. Probably not. We're not travelling so much now, but where's the place that stands out in your mind the most that you went to?
Tough one.
It's probably for different reasons, though.
Yeah, that's it.
Click, click, click. Look, I think the trip that I went to Spain was so interesting in the way that they dealt with their issues. And then not long after I went there, COVID struck. And having been there, and you remember the early days of how bad Spain got hit by the COVID.
Yeah.
And you think, gee, I've been there and I know how many people are there and how that would impact. But I think that was such a great trip for an education on waste and some of the challenges that we need to really look at as a very young country opposed to a very highly populated country like Spain.
Yeah, Spain's lovely. I've been there a few times and a few different resorts, but for different reasons than you were there.
Yeah, another nice area was a really great. We've got 6 councils called the Southwest Group, and so it's Rockingham, Kwinana, Coburn, Fremantle, East Fremantle and Melville. And for over 35 years we've worked as a voluntary regional organisation. We come together, we go do joint lobbying. So it's not just about Kwinana, it's about what can you do on a regional basis. And when you look at it, that's something like 450,000 people that we represent when we go lobbying. And a couple of years ago, we kind of changed our direction. Instead of going to Canberra every year as a delegation, cap in hand, trying to get funding, we started to look at how can we better do things from an economic development point of view. So we started to look at different areas in Australia and different councils who were really setting the example. And one trip we did was to Sydney, and it was looking at the way you have living buildings.
Oh, yes.
You've got them in Singapore as well, and they're only just starting to come in here in Perth. To me, that really opened my eyes, just how beautiful buildings can be if you put a bit of greenery in them.
Yes, a bit of open space around them as well, but to house many people as well. So because space is, you know, as vast and wonderful as WA is, you know, space for communities to come together is, you know, whenever you think about it. I'm seeing this in front of you, Love My Kwinana. Can you share with us about that?
Yeah, I would love to talk about this. This was our strategic community plan document, and it was really going out to the community to say what do they love about Kwinana, and this was again looking at the next 10 years. What are the projects and what are the things that the community wanted to see their rates go towards and their council to work towards? So we produced the Love My Kwinana, and there was all these postcards and there was surveys, and we had a really good response. And what came out of that was 3 projects, which in our latest budget, which was passed only probably about 6 weeks ago. There are 3 projects, and one of them was being the Kwinana Loop Trail. We've got a 21-kilometre trail that goes all the way around Kwinana. People may not know that.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's kind of crushed limestone. People walk their dogs on it, people ride their bikes on it, but we really think that it can be a lot more than that.
I've actually seen it when we're coming in off the Kwinana Freeway, and you see it there just as you pass there. Yeah,
so it links up all our areas. So again, we started looking about, and COVID has been a boom business for mountain bikes, trail bikes, riding. And so we went down a couple of months ago, myself, the CEO and our economic development officer, and we went and we had a look at the Nanup trails. We looked at Margaret River and we looked at Collie trails. And as a result, we came back and said, look, we can make this loop trail absolutely fantastic. We can do proper mountain bike areas, bump. I've learnt these new terms, bump,
Okay.
bump area, and make it more inclusive. So it can surface at the moment. If you're in a wheelchair, you wouldn't go on it.
Yeah.
And even dogs' paws, I don't take my dogs on it because I think that the crushed limestone's a bit too big boulders, might
I
hurt
think
their
the same,
paws.
yeah, it hurts.
Yeah.
So I'm sure
So
it does.
You wouldn't be taking your shoes off on it.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Yes.
Where I don't wear bare feet, that's where I don't take my dogs. Even
well,
on hot days, people thought I was crazy when I took my dog out for a walk. But the first thing I did was when I went onto the footpath, I took my shoe off. And if I couldn't walk on it, I'm not letting my dog do it.
I often see people walking in the middle of summer with their dogs, and you think, don't
Yeah.
you know that's burning a dog's foot?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so the Loop Trail, we went out and we were actually doing a master plan for it at the moment. We've got the tender
So you
out.
don't have to walk 21 kilometres, no?
You can ride it.
You can
Or
ride.
use an
But
electric
Is there
bike.
different little things that
Yeah,
you can, it
yeah.
doesn't have to be the whole 21 kilometres?
No, and we've actually just done a project with our Indigenous groups to do with signing of the whole area. But it's the residents agreed, and they said, look, they're happy to go ahead with that. And it's a $700,000 project. It's split over 2 financial years and hopefully be a mixture of grants, ratepayer money and council money. So that's one of the things that has come out of Love My
It's
Kwinana.
amazing. What about the safety for people? You know, whenever it's a big long track, if somebody's training for a marathon, say,
Yeah.
not planning for it soon, but you know, just
I
in
think
case.
there's different. There'll
Yeah.
be different areas
And time frames, I
Yeah.
suppose. Yeah.
I don't know about times, but I think there'll be different. People have different interests, and I think that you would know when people are coming. You know, you'd keep to one side, and you know, I mean, it is a big area,
Yeah.
but I think also safety. If you talk about personal safety, I think it'll be more people because it's right in the bush.
Yeah.
Beautiful area.
Is it access
It'd be
for
gorgeous to
disabilities as well?
work.
Well,
Walk.
well, this will be what the Loop Trail is about as well.
Yeah.
The surface will be improved so that you
right,
can
yeah.
actually now use e-bikes, you can use your wheelchair access, disability access. That'd be
Amazing,
great,
isn't it?
yeah.
All inclusive.
And the second thing that people were happy to put their ratepayer funds towards was our events program. Because of post-COVID, we put our events program went down to $130,000 a year. And you think about all the events your council does, it's not a lot. Prior to COVID, we had Perth Symphony Orchestra. We had quite a large events program. That got shrunk right down. And the community have come back and they said, look, we want to see more stuff happening. So they have agreed to increase from $130,000 to $380,000 a year.
Wow,
Additional
that's
funding.
like trifold, hey?
But I mean, you look at a big concert, you're looking easily $200,000. You know, but that's something that draws a lot of people. When we've had our big event, we called it. Used to have it in November, December. We would have 7,000 people. You know, and that would be great. And the third thing is actually $160,000, and that is for a healthy lifestyle programs and activities. It's for a dedicated person to come in and run some programs. And I was having a good read about it before I came in here, and they've got some really great stuff happening. You know, some of the things you're doing.
Keeps the minds active as well and keeps everybody, you know, purpose-driven, I suppose.
Well, we're having what's called a HEAL program, and that stands for Healthy Eating Active Lifestyle Program. And it's an 8-week nutrition and exercise program focusing on behavioural change and staying active at your own pace. And that's classes up to 15 to 20 people take this class. This is just one of the things we're doing.
And this is funded as well for people?
Yeah,
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, we've got
isn't it?
we've got a
That
new
sounds great.
full-time staff, lots of. We like to think that because we've had challenges and some of our health statistics are not the best, we put a lot of time and effort into healthy lifestyles, and so this is just one of them.
Kwinana is a resilient community though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Very much, I think so.
we are. And it's an interesting place now because we've just got so much diversity. Look at our high school; we have something like 37 different nationalities.
Yeah.
Oh.
But Rockingham would be the same.
Yeah.
When you look at, you know, the history of Rockingham and the people that come to Rockingham.
Yeah. Rockingham captured my heart when we arrived here at Rockingham Beach, and that was before it was all transformed and everything. It's just
it's
something
stunning.
about it. And I remember then hearing about the name it had, and I was like, that is so wrong. So one of our first ever publishing projects was called I can't even remember now, but it was all about romance and at Rockingham Beach. it was really funny.
People get very patriotic about names. People say to me, why don't you change the name of Kwinana? And I said, well, Kwinana is an Aboriginal word for pretty maiden.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't realise that. So it has got this, and we've got a high portion of our First Nations people, and we work really closely with them, especially with our reconciliation action groups and that. So we're quite proud of the name and for what it stands for, and we're proud of our industry. I mean, we host West Australia's premier industrial area that puts in $16 billion to our economy nationally.
So
each year,
impressive, isn't it?
Sorry. Yeah.
And you take it all in your stride. It's like, wow, it's just amazing because you obviously have, you lead inspired, you're an inspired leader, and everyone just comes together to make it happen, I feel.
Yeah, we do have challenges. We've got we've got such a fortunate to have such a large economic hub, employment hub in the industrial area. When you think that, their catchment, 65% of the people that actually work in that area live within 15 kilometres. So
there's
that's
so many cars there when you drive
Rockingham,
past. I'm like, there's so many cars of people working in there.
And more to come.
I noticed that the other day. Yeah,
I know.
It's exciting.
When I was, I'm probably rabbiting on much more longer than you wanted me to, but I just keep going. Well, when you think back 20 years ago, there was one thing we had was so much land. Much of it was underutilised. It was vacant Crown land or in Crown ownership. And now because of the push for the port, you find there is not a lot of heavy industrial land now. And we know that for several years we are getting lots of inquiries and land is being snapped up. So one of the things we are actually going to have is a shortage of industrial land, which is really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And it ramps up the prices then too.
Oh, yeah,
Well, it does, yeah. But we've got the whole latitude 32 land, and that is a huge area. That was two town sites of Hope Valley and Wattleup.
Yeah.
Which were eventually bought out by the government and through an act of parliament. I think they probably don't have any more. They may have one or two houses there at the moment, but look at the size of that, and that will be a place for industry.
Yeah, and houses just go up so fast, don't they?
Oh yeah.
It's like, wow. What would be your legacy thing that you it just springs to mind?
I think the Darius Wells Library and Resource Centre, at the time, there were so many. When you think of 18% of the Kwinana, going back over 15 years ago, didn't drive, didn't have a car, and many of the services are regional services, so you'd have to go to Fremantle or Rockingham. So if you have young kids and you don't have a car and you're standing there at the bus stop, it's not very good. So what we didn't have is a lot of services, the not-for-profit services to help the people in our community, so they didn't have to travel out of Kwinana. And so that's what we advocated for, the Darius Wells Library and the resource centres. So we got at the time Lottery West's largest grant. I think it was around about $11 million. And so we were able to build that facility.
Wow, it's amazing, isn't it? And to educate the community.
Yeah.
A library, it's an amazing
library.
resource. Yeah.
But more importantly, when you look at the businesses, the not-for-profit service providers that are in that area that now assist, you've got Citizens Advice Bureau, Smith Family, Bridging the Gap, Kwinana Early Years, fantastic organisations that do so much behind the scenes for people, really make a difference to people in the community. So I would like to think that probably the Darius Wells Library Resource Centre is the legacy, and people say, well, how did you come to the name of it?
Yes.
The Darius was the ship's name before it was the Kwinana.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
There we go.
and
See?
Wells
Yeah.
was the first postmistress was Mrs. Wells, and she had the post office in Kwinana Beach, and people quite often just used to address the letters Kwinana Rec.
Okay.
So we just kind of married the names of Darius Wells, and that's how we came up with it.
It does stick in your mind, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Oh, yeah,
Though? And it's a
definitely.
really impressive library. It's so beautiful and nice energy in it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot happening in it, isn't there?
Yeah, we use it as an exhibition centre and a community lounge. I was very pleased it's called the Carol Adams Community Lounge, or I call it the Cackle Lounge for short. Yeah, got lots of groups go there, so I'm very proud of that too.
Yeah, it's amazing. Wow, it's so exciting. Well, I am just like so privileged to get to know more about this and to have this conversation with you. It is
thank
just
you.
so wonderful. Is there anything else you want to share with everyone?
Well, let me see.
Please find something amazing there.
Well, we're actually, population-wise, we are one of the fastest growing local governments in Western Australia, if not Australia. We're the seventh fastest growing in Australia. And up to probably a few months ago, we're the second fastest growing in Western Australia. We were only bested by Serpentine, Jarrahdale. And then can you believe it, the whole suburb of Baldivis is growing so fast. And now Allenbrook has jumped in, and so we've been bumped down a bit.
Yeah.
But our population now is 45,000. We are set to double by 2030. And when you look at where that population is coming from, it's from people who are coming from overseas, either for work, when we're allowed to travel again,
Yes.
and people want to settle here. And we're also areas of affordable housing as well. And without doubt, the government's building stimulus package over COVID has certainly bumped up the amount of development, not just in Kwinana, but in all the whole South Corridor as well. But look, if anybody's listening from outside of Kwinana, I would invite you to please check out our website, check out some of the great programs we've got going. And if you're looking to resettle someone somewhere, come that 40 kilometres, south and really have a look at not just what we've got, but what the region has to offer, and really consider moving here. I always say that the centre of Perth is moving southwards.
Yes, absolutely. Isn't it?
Yeah,
Isn't it?
yeah.
And you're not far from the beach. If you want to go to the beach and have a beach day, you're just not far. Everything's there.
Great restaurants in Rockingham as well on the foreshore. It's I think Rockingham, whilst I'm talking about Kwinana, to me, I look at it as a regional thing. It's only 10 minutes down the track. It's on the cusp of something so exciting, and I really hope that the marina that's been proposed, Port Rockingham, whilst I'm not enamoured with the name, but I think if that marina can take off, and you've got 500 pens there, and you look at what's happened in other areas, that will just catalyse that area unbelievably.
It is, isn't it? It's and that's the thing. It's all about growth and attracting people in. But I can imagine if I went to Kwinana now, if we were emigrating here, I'd get a different response in that service station.
Yeah, I'd like to
that
think
impression,
so.
So different. But yeah, absolutely. And it's exciting to see. And for Kwinana, I always drive through Kwinana when I'm going to the city because we stop in and get something to eat on the way. And it's my kids are always looking to go to Kwinana for the play parks. Just love it. It's so
I used to love the skateboard park there when I was younger as well. That was brilliant.
Well, we'd like it a lot better now, I hope. We've got our Edge skate park. But we've actually set up into 4 different zones. So we've got a whole youth precinct, an education precinct, commercial, and then a residential precinct that goes all the way through that city centre. So you can get on a push bike, or you can walk from one end right through to the high school, which is great. And we do put a lot of money into our community services, especially our youth in our zone. And we have a fantastic program called the Leadership Youth Respecting Kwinana. It's called Lyric. And thanks to our sponsors of Alcoa and Coogee Chemicals for many years, we have these great awards, and our Young Person of the Year might be worth interviewing if you haven't already, is a beautiful young woman, Aboriginal woman called Jai Hunter, and she's just done some amazing things when you think that she's still in high school.
Wow, isn't it impressive? We had a 15-year-old here last week. We were like blown away by her, and the wisdom that comes through these young people now, and the passion, and whereas they may have been reserved to make the progress, now it's they're being listened to and facilitated their growth. It's amazing. Kwinana Arts Centre as well, I think, is an amazing thing in Kwinana. We used to always go there. I love it there. I actually done my TEDx talk there. Yeah, I did it. It was in the middle of COVID. I couldn't fly to Ireland, so we filmed it from Kwinana Arts Centre.
Wow.
And streamed it over. So yeah, it was really good.
It's probably underutilised though, in the sense that we've got a fantastic 1,000-seat auditorium at the back of it, with a sprung floor, timber floor. I remember at the time we got the community group actually put in the grant, and it was working so well as an outdoor movie theatre, and then came along daylight saving.
Oh, yeah.
And daylight saving absolutely killed it.
Isn't that amazing, that 1 hour?
And then, of course, residential area then went up not that far away, and even though the people knew at the time that they were overlooking an amphitheatre, there's been a few...
I've actually walked along that. I got photographs taken there as well for some branding shots, and it's really nice amphitheatre.
Oh, it's a beautiful amphitheatre, and I hope that we can do something. I always think outdoor ballet in summer would be fantastic.
That would be amazing.
Let's hope something comes back.
Irish dancing, my girls do Irish dancing. That'd be so good, wouldn't it? So fun. But yeah, that's the thing. And outside in an evening, can you imagine summer's evening, just so beautiful outside, just amazing. Yeah. Well, I am so happy that you came in to chat with us today, Carol. Thank you so very much. I'm sure that our listeners got so much out of that conversation. I know I did.
Yeah.
Kwinana's on the list now.
K-Town.
K-Town.
Yeah, that's all the kids used to call it, because it was a town before it was a city. So they always kids going, we're going down to K-Town.
What was the translation mean from Kwinana?
Pretty maiden.
Pretty maiden.
Right. It's not actually from a Noongar word. It's actually from further up in the Pilbara area, as I understand.
Alrighty.
So we're quite...
So I'll go home to the wife tonight and say, hey, you're my Kwinana.
And I'm sure she'll love it.
What did you do? Why are you looking for brownie points?
Thanks for the opportunity to come in and have a chat and be able to... you don't often get airplay about, your areas that you're passionate about, so it's been great.
You make it so interesting, though. That's what I love about it. And good luck in October.
Oh,
we'll be rooting for you.
Well, we don't have a popular elected mayor like Rockingham's going to be the first time. We have no appetite for that. So it's a matter you get voted in as a councillor, and then your peer group choose who they wish to be mayor or deputy mayor. So but it's. Fingers crossed, who knows? Yeah,
absolutely. You've done such an amazing job. They'll be wanting you to hang on for as long as you can.
I think so. Isn't it?
I don't know. Sometimes you think, well, it's time, is it time for, new people to come forward and start stamping their legacy. I've been very fortunate. I've ticked off on all the projects that I've wanted to achieve, but I think I won't be satisfied until that first ship's going out of that port.
I can't wait to see that happen.
Oh yeah, that's it.
You can see it happen. And what's the time frame in that? The estimated time frame if it happens?
Well, it could happen in 5 years. It's when you think about just trying to get all the infrastructure, it's not just a matter of building a port. It's the road works that go to it. It's if it's going to be a land-backed port. Is it going to be an island port? And there's also freight and rail. So you've got a unique opportunity to get it right and learn from other ports throughout.
And be innovative in it.
Oh, very much.
Lead the way.
It'll be big enough you'll see it from the satellite.
Yes, absolutely. Goodbye, Great Wall of China.
That's right. I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Oh, amazing! Thank you so much, Carol.
Thank
Decka.
you for the opportunity.
Yeah,
and
thanks for coming in. Yeah. Alrighty, and we'll sort of end it at that, and we go to PSY.